Hi everyone, this is Tanya here with Memory Lane Keepsakes, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited that you guys have chosen to join me today for another video here on my channel. If this is your first time visiting me, I hope you choose to stick around by the end of this video by becoming a part of my YouTube family. Also, if you are coming back, thank you so much for the continued YouTube support. I really appreciate it. Well, in today's video, I'm excited to share my family summer vacation. Recently, my family and I, we just came back from Disney World as well as Universal Studios. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some tips as well as my special guest that will be coming up soon. And I cannot wait to get you guys the insider of how our trip went. Coming back soon. Welcome back. So first up, I'm going to be introducing my husband. He's going to be coming on in to give you guys some more of the insider tips and different things that we learned along the way during our family vacay. Again, we went to Disney World as well as Universal Studios. So my husband Damon is coming right on in to continue to let you guys know what's up with our trip.
Hello, I'm here. Let's do this.
So first up, we're going to go ahead and talk about Disney. So we recently just came back from Disney World, and as you guys know, in my previous video, I shared with you guys the shirts that I made to surprise the girls on this big, huge family trip that we just took. The girls have been wanting to go to Disney for quite some time. So we chose Magic Kingdom. Now, this was my third time going to Disney. My first time going to Disney, I was a child. My second time going to Disney, it was just hubby and I. So we had a little kid in us, and we just had to go ahead and have that fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Now this last time, which is my third time, we chose to go with the family. So I was really excited to be able to introduce the girls to somewhere they've been wanting to go for a long time. So my husband and I decided to surprise them. So we got so many things we want to share, and we hope all the tips and different things that we share with you guys is helpful, and you guys can adopt those and use them while you're planning your summer vacay with your family.
Yeah, so the great thing about going to Disney World is the one thing we agreed upon is that Disney, they have the flow of people down to a science, right? So when you first drive into Disney, when you park, first of all, they've got attendants to tell you where to park, because obviously the park is massive, but you don't have to guess, okay, where do I need to park? So they've got everybody, they got the flow of people. You park there, you figure out what section you're parking in, and you walk into the park, and they have a tram that takes you from the entrance into the actual park itself. Which is very efficient. We like that, the flow of the people there. Once you have your tickets and you get past the front gate, then they've got an area right there in the front where everybody takes their pictures. They've got the shrubbery with the Mickey and Minnie right there in front. So we got our pictures there before we went into the park. So that was real cool.
Really nice. And one of the things, of course, anytime you're planning a vacay, it's better to get an early start. Like they say, the early bird catches the worm. And it's so true, because keep in mind, you're going during the summertime. So of course you want to dress appropriately. One of the tips that I can go ahead and give you is to make sure you wear comfortable clothing. It's so important, because keep in mind, although you may be used to your climate where you're from, it's going to be different when you go to Florida. And of course, it's always going to rain when you go to Florida. You can't tell me you've been to Florida and it does not rain. It's going to happen, maybe on and off, maybe even a thunderstorm, but you never know. But still, outside of that, you still want to make sure you wear comfortable clothing, meaning shorts, as well as a light colored shirt, as well as some comfortable tennis shoes would be ideal for a trip like that. Because keep in mind, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. It's going to be a lot of long lines. You're going to be tired, you're going to be standing, so you want to make sure you're comfortable so you can have a really great experience. That's one of the things that is key when you're first planning any trip, especially when you kind of have an idea of what it may be. And if you are choosing to take anything with you, make sure you pack really, really light. So I have like this little small canvas bag that I take. It's like a little drawstring canvas bag. and I drape that across my shoulder, and I'm able to place my cell phone. It's big enough for a cell phone, as well as a little bottle of sanitizer, and to keep some loose change in there, or a credit card or two. You don't want nothing really heavy like a big book bag. Some people do carry on, and that's fine as well. But keep in mind, the more weight on your shoulders and back, the more heated you're going to be as far as the climate that you're experiencing while you're at the park. So those are some of the things that I would recommend, because you want to pack really light. You don't want to really wear sandals, because understand that you're going to be walking on a hard surface. It's very important that those feet are comfortable, because you're going to be trying to enjoy the park. You don't want your feet to start hurting, because that's going to ruin your vacation off from the very beginning. So those are some of the key things I wanted to point out. Getting that early start is key, so that way you can go ahead and plan what rides you want to get on, because there are a lot of distractions. They are now doing things different because of the COVID as well. Masks are required when you're going to the restroom, but not so much for inside the whole park. Some people chose to wear them, some people chose not to, but if you are going into the restroom, you did have to wear your mask. So I definitely recommend you take that. If you're also going inside of a building for like one of the shows, it was required for you to wear a mask as well.
Yeah, so the word planning is definitely key, meaning that, well, the good thing about technology now today, you can actually download the My Disney app. So when you're in the park, you can see what the wait times are for the rides. So when you plan out the flow, how you want the day to go, like Tanya was saying, as far as when you get there in the morning, which is you want to get there early, because especially during the summer, the wait times are going to be pretty long no matter what. But with the app, you can actually figure out, you can kind of plan it out. Okay, the wait for this ride is only 20 minutes. Let's knock this one out real quick. And that's actually what we did first thing when we got there. Was I think it was the race cars, that we actually walked past the race cars, but then we saw the wait wasn't that long, so we were like, let's get on these real quick. So we knocked that out. So, but later on the day, luckily we did it early, because later on the day, the wait to get on those race cars was probably an hour and a half. So again, use the app to kind of figure out how you want the flow to go. And like she was saying, as far as the wearing comfortable shoes, you're going to do some walking. So you definitely want to get that, get that right before you go. Another thing too is, when you plan your trip, understand that going into Disney, it is an expense, that's for sure. Our girls are 12 and 7, so they're at an age where, especially our youngest one, she's tall enough to pretty much get on everything. And people can do what they want, but from my perspective, when you have really young kids, like in a stroller, to me, it's kind of a hindrance a little bit, because you can't really do everything. And let's say there's a ride that you want to ride, you got to say, okay, let me ride this ride real quick. You guys hang back, and then we'll switch it up later. You can do that, but to me, it makes more sense to kind of probably wait until they're a little older, so that way you can actually do everything all at one time. Because the whole the hassle of having to push a stroller around, and the logistics of, okay, what do we do with the stroller now, and this, that, and the other. I think it's better off to have the kids at a good enough size and good enough age to where nothing is really restricted, because you spend enough money to where you don't want to have to be figuring out
diaper
the logistics.
Changes.
Yeah, diaper changes, all sorts of logistics that shouldn't be part of the plan when you're spending that much money, if that makes sense. So again, I understand people want to go to Disney, but really you definitely want to make sure you plan it out. And I think part of planning it out really is making sure that the kids are big enough to where they can do everything, and they're not being hindered by not being able to get on rides and stuff like that.
Definitely. So everything my husband just said is definitely fact and so true, because I feel like we did wait a good enough time. And this trip is funny, because this trip was actually supposed to happen a year ago, but because of COVID-19, we had to put things on hold. And I'm glad we did, because it's one of those things where we got a chance to experience more family time anyway. That's something that I take real dear to my heart, and I love having family moments. But we had so many great memories, and we were just really excited to be able to do this video with you guys, just showcase and share with you some of the tips and different things that we learned along the way. Now, they do have some inside shows. So let's say, for example, you don't want to be in the sun too long. They have some shows where you can get out of the sun for a little bit and go sit down as a family, and those were really nice, because they was it's by it being in a closed area, the AC was wonderful. I mean, it was at the right time. We couldn't have planned a better day. Now, when we did go to the park, one of the things I will say, it did rain, but it rained on and off, just enough to where the sun wasn't leaning up on our back, but just enough to where we had It was a little cloudy, but it was just almost perfect to the point. Of course, nobody wants it to rain on their wonderful vacation, especially at Disney. But we use it to our advantage, and it ended up working out really great. Now, with that being said, some of the rides did close down a few times, but then they will open back up. So when my husband mentioned to you, you want to plan as you see how the rides are when you were kind of close to them based on the wait times. He's right, because some of the rides might have shut down and didn't open back up at all, but we had already got on it, so that was wonderful. But one of the things is you want to definitely kind of go down the list and see what's important to you. What rides do you want to get on, and how long are you willing to wait? I know it was one ride we got on which was a roller coaster, and this one, I think that was the longest one we waited for, and we all got on as a family. I want to say it was like a mine.
Yeah, it was
a roller coaster
gold
mine.
rush,
Yes.
gold rush type. I forgot the name of it, but when you get to the park, there's only one that's it's like a gold rush, mining type roller coaster. I think it's near. Is it near the Ferris? Not the Ferris wheel. The merry-go-round. Was it in that area?
It is. You have to go straight down a little ways, but it wasn't too far from there.
Yeah.
And the line was wrapped around the building. But at that time, what we did was, since we were waiting, we took that time and we did socialize with other people that was in front of us or behind us. In addition to that, I also stepped out of line for a little bit to take pictures of the girls. I used the time wisely, and we just kind of just stood there and just made the best of the time and just taking it all in, because again, if you're only planning for that one day, you want to make every moment count. And then of course nobody's pulling your leg to make you stand that line. You chose to ride this, so of course they tell you to wait time up front, you see. So you want to go ahead and decide at that point, are you going to be able to do it, or do you want to just go and ride on something else? And then that's when you have to make a determination what's best for you.
And the beautiful thing about in the day and age that we're in right now is everybody has a smartphone pretty much. So when you're waiting in line, let's say the wait is 30 minutes, people can scroll through their phone, check their social media, your Facebook, YouTube video, whatever. And so it really makes the wait seem not as long. Whereas before social media and before smartphones, you'd be in line just, it's hot, it's whatever, but now you've got distractions to kind of make it to where by the time you get to the front of the line, you're like, oh, I'm here, So.
True. And one of the things that was also different too was the fact that I mentioned guys about the mask. They also changed it up. Disney, right when we had planned our trip, they got it set up to where you have to reserve your ticket and make the reservation. So I'm gonna let my husband tell you more about how that went.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that when you get your ticket, it's for a specific day. And so if you don't get it for the specific day, you're not fully done, right? So in other words, if you buy your ticket and you think you're good, you get to the entrance of the park, they're going to say, well, we're not going to allow you entrance, because you have to have, it's a two-pronged approach. You buy your ticket, but then you have to select which day that you're going to go. So this is the post-COVID situation now where it's date specific. And I want to say that they have the ability to buy it to where it's flexible, but it's more money to do that. I've got to double check my numbers on that, but I know that you do have to make sure that you buy the ticket and get the specific date that you're looking for. I think it makes sense. That way they can monitor the flow of people. They know how many people are coming each day, and it's not too overburdened for the system. Because like I said, Disney, if they do nothing else well, they have the flow of people down to a science. That way, even though it's a lot of people coming in at one time, they've got it to where they have the people that know how to guide the people. They've got enough lines to get the flow of people into the park. So the opposite of, let's say you go into like a Walmart and there could be 1,000 people and they've got one register open. At Disney World, they've actually got it to where they've got 1,000 people, but they've got enough lines open to where it doesn't seem that bad, right? So. Yeah, I love the flow, how they got that now.
Yes, they definitely have it organized, and that's one thing I could say about Disney. Something else that was different too because of the COVID and how COVID changed things up. The characters, we didn't really see Mickey and Minnie or a lot of the characters out, or any, to be honest with you. We saw maybe a handful, but it wasn't that many. And if they did have them out, they probably had them like behind a rope where you can probably take a photo with them. But it was really different because my previous times of going to Disney before COVID, one of the things I would say, they were everywhere. I mean, you every time you turned your back or looked around, there was a character. This time, it wasn't that same feel, that same experience. So I really didn't like the fact that the girls missed out on that, you know, because that was kind of important to me. But that's one of the things to consider. But now, as things are easing back to get back on track with everything since COVID, one of the things I will say, because we also didn't get a chance to experience the fireworks as well. When I mentioned it to one of the co-workers there at Disney, they mentioned they was going to start up the week later. So by now, the fireworks and the parades and stuff had kind of started back. But during the time we was there, unfortunately, the girls did not get that experience the way that I really wish they could have, because I've experienced it 2 times prior to us going this time here, and I can honestly have to say that I really want to take them back just for that experience right there alone, so they can get that full end of day experience. Like, okay, we conquered, we had fun, we enjoyed it, great memory, you know. But.
And then also too, going back to what we were saying about planning, you definitely want to plan your food, because they have packages to where you can get food for the entire day, or a drink package or whatever, but you definitely want to plan out that flow, because technically you can bring food in. Do they say you can't bring a cooler or something like that?
Yes, you can pack a lunch if you choose to do that. They were saying no loose ice, and you can't bring an actual cooler or any alcohol beverages, of course. So if you did pack a lunch, I would recommend maybe an ice pack, a ventilated bag, or something where it would stay cool or cold for you, depending on what you're bringing in. Now, I did see a few of the guests or people that came into the park, they did pack a few lunches, and that's fine and dandy, but keep in mind, you're going to be tugging that around, and you're able to go back to your car. But understand, look at the time it takes to get into the park. The park is like not right up the street, like literally, you got a good walk. That's for any theme park that you're going to. And if you're okay with that, then by all means, do what you have to do that's necessary for you and your fam. But for us, we didn't want to lose any time, being the fact that we only allowed ourselves 1 day at Disney. So we wanted to make every moment count, and we didn't want to miss out. And by us doing it the way we did it, we was able to get on every single ride in the park except for 3, because we probably chose not to get on those other 3. But the way we did it, I mean, with a child that is 12 and a child that is 7, I have to say we did our thing. So we also enjoyed a few shows too. So we had so much fun. We even sat down for lunch. I mean, it was wonderful. So I'm really happy with the experience. And one ride we want to talk to you about is the last ride we got on.
It was in Tomorrowland, and I forget the name of it, but it's elevated and it looks like rocket ships, right? But it is not for grown folks. It's not for big folks, because Tanya and I wanted to ride it together, and then the girls are gonna get on their ride, their little rocket together. Nah. So I think, did you get in first or did I get in first?
I got in first.
You got in first.
Yeah.
I was gonna try to sit behind her, and I couldn't even sit down. So ultimately, we had to make sure they didn't start the ride, so I don't go flying off into space somewhere. But ultimately, we had to just switch it up into where I rode with my oldest daughter, and then Tanya rode with our youngest daughter, because it's not meant for tall people.
It's definitely not meant for tall people.
Two tall people in that little rocket, ain't gonna happen.
But one of the things too, though, we want the only ones that was on the struggle bus. There was another gentleman, because he looked at us and he saw we were struggling. He was struggling too with his daughter.
He was probably taller than me. I'm 6'2". He's probably 6'4". He was a little bit bigger than me.
The struggle was real.
Yeah, he couldn't get on it. Matter of fact, he didn't even get on the ride. It was that much of a struggle.
Yes,
so,
it was. So I wouldn't recommend that for no adults.
Nah.
But in order for them to ride by themselves, I think they have to be at least, was it 7?
Something like that. But also too,
it was either 7. It was, I forget this.
But it was at the very end too. So the wait to get on it was
insane,
wild.
because it's an
Plus
elevator.
you got to take an elevator all the
way
way to the top. So if let's say that was the last ride that you had for the day, and the line is forever, don't think that you're necessarily missing out on anything. So do everything else first. If you get on that, cool. If not, you're not really missing nothing, because it was uncomfortable.
It was. It was uncomfortable. Now, I admit, the height of seeing everything up high was beautiful, but it was the way the ride was made, it was really tight. It wasn't no type of comfort, and we're basically just giving you a heads up so that way you can go ahead and decide to get on something else. Now, if you want to go ahead and let your child ride, that's fine, but I wouldn't recommend as an adult getting on that. So,
Yeah. And then going back to the food deal, Disney, they're gonna get their money out of you one way or another. So if you don't bring your food, if you do the package, or whether you don't do the package, understand that when you're not inside of an amusement park, you may be used to a value meal being $10. Well, Disney ain't gonna be that. So just know that up front. So you're gonna pay, and a lot of times too. Let's say you're used to chicken tenders and fries. They'll have those there, but again, it's not going to be $5-10. It may be $15-20. But again, they know that you have to eat, so you're a captive audience. Just like when you're at the airport, the price is going to be escalated. So just know that up front. So that just goes into the planning deal. When you budget for it, you've got to know it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So again, know what you're getting into from that perspective.
True. And then one of the things I also would have to say about Disney is a great place to visit. I know every child wants to go there and experience those magical moments, and I recommend any and every family definitely go check it out for yourselves. But one of the things I will say, if you have smaller kids, it's the perfect part and wonderful family vacay for you. But if your kids are, I would say 15 and older, then we're going to recommend another part for you. And this is where it comes in, and then we're going to shift things and go from Disney, which is Magic Kingdom, to Universal Studios. We want to talk to you guys about that.
Universal Studios was great. We actually went on Wednesday, which that's another thing too. I think if you plan a trip to the amusement parks, the middle of the week is going to be preferable, depending on how long you're going to stay. If let's say you're only going to go for a day, I wouldn't recommend Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Because everybody and their mother is going to be there on those days. And unless you we'll talk about the Fast Pass later. If you're just going to go just by itself, middle of the week is probably going to be best. So we went to Universal Studios on a Wednesday, and the flow, when we parked there, let's say it wasn't as efficient as Disney, I would say, probably, right? They've got the walking people movers once you park to get into the actual City Walk. With City Walk is at Universal Studios, that's an area where they have restaurants and different shops before you actually go into the park itself. But that itself, I like City Walk. What about
City
you?
Walk was nice. City Walk was kind of like on a kid scale and adult scale, but kind of like almost if you ever been in New York, like the Times Square, it was lit up. I mean, like, of course in the daytime you don't see all of that, but at night it's beautiful, and it's giving me like New York vibes, you know, in the middle of Times Square. That's what it was for me. But at the same time, one of the things I loved about City Walk was the fact that they didn't close until midnight. Oh my God. Like, I want things to stay open to midnight. Whether you are a Michael's, a Joann's, Tuesday morning, whatever. Like, I need my stores to stay open a little later than shutting down like at 9 and 10 people. Come on, we got to do better about this time. Like, I need things to stay open later. So that midnight was definitely happening for me. I love that because it gave you a chance to explore the different shops and the different eatery places. That was beautiful. And then you have so many choices to choose where you want to wine and dine yourselves, or sit down as a family and just grab a burger or a quick bite to eat. So those were so many options that they had more than Disney had. That's one of the things that really stuck out for me for City Walk. And also just the ideal of being connected to Universal Studios. That was one of the beautiful things about it. And I do know, like, after a certain time, I want to say it was after 6, the parking was actually free.
Right.
So if you are just going to City Walk, you will be able just to park after 6 p.m. and go and enjoy that experience with your significant other or the family if you choose to do that. But it's so much to do there. So I definitely recommend definitely exploring in that little area, and not just Universal alone for Universal Studios, but it's beautiful. So many different things. And speaking of that, should we go ahead and talk about one of the places that we stopped by?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right. So this place right here is one of the places that we definitely had to go and experience for our first time, which is the Voodoo Donuts. And this place right here, oh my God, guys. The chair. Like, let's talk about the chair first of all. I'm going to be showcasing some of the pictures from my family vacay at the end of this video. And there was this beautiful sweet treats chair that they had. I took a photo as well as the girls, and it was right in front of this shop called Voodoo Donuts. Now, the Voodoo Donuts, have you guys ever heard of that? If so, put it in the comments and let us know how you enjoyed your Voodoo Donuts. They had so many delicious, big, huge, all types of kind of donuts that you can imagine. But what I'm going to tell you is you got to pick and choose when you go. If you choose to go early in the daytime, the wait is not as long. you can maybe be in and out in maybe 15 minutes, maybe even 20. Now, if you choose to wait and go late at night, like we did, you're going to wait.
It was like an hour and a half.
Yes, you're going to wait a little while. And then at that point, you got to decide, am I just going to get 2 or 3 donuts, or I'm going to go ahead and get a whole dozen? Well, because of the wait, you're going to be pushing to getting a dozen, especially because it has so many to choose from. So we went ahead and got that dozen, and I'll be showing you guys pictures and a video clip of that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and get more into the park, and so some of the things we want to share with you guys and tell you how that worked, because you have to go through a security process too before you get into the park.
Yeah. So once you get past City Walk, you walk down the pathway to get into the park itself. Like I say, you walk through the metal detector, they scan your tickets. And I want to say the same thing as with Disney. It is date specific, so they do. That's another thing. Again, always make sure that you have the specific date that you have the pass for. Then once you get in there, I would highly recommend, again, going back to the planning aspect of it, if you're going to go for just one day, I would highly recommend the Fast Pass. Because before we went, I was like, why would I get a Fast Pass? And then when you get there, you realize, okay, I probably should have got the Fast Pass. Because, again, just like with Disney, you can actually get the app on your phone, the Universal app, where you can see the wait times for the rides. And sometimes some of the waits may be like an hour, hour and a half. And the reality is, with Universal Studios, as opposed to Disney, I want to say the hours for Universal Studios were, they opened a little bit later, and I think they closed an hour earlier, or maybe the same time as Disney, but that extra hour could be the difference between getting on everything or not. But if you have the Fast Pass, you can essentially, what the Fast Pass does is essentially, let's say the wait time for the ride is like an hour and a half or an hour. The Fast Pass will let you get on at least half the time, or sometimes even less than that. Because I've known some people, there was one of the Harry Potter rides I think we got on, where the guy said, man, I walked right up, and that line for the non-Fast Pass people may have been an hour 15 minutes, but he said he walked right up. So when you think about it, if you're going to spend just the day there, we have a shrunk amount of time in which to do everything. Then you want to have that Fast Pass, you can get on, get off the rides, and then, because again, you still have to eat, that's going to take time. Everything is not next to each other, so you got walking time in there too. So unless you can teleport from ride to ride, you're going to have to understand that that's some of the time that's going to be sucked out of your time there too.
Definitely. And one of the things that I really liked about the rides was the fact that a lot of them were just like rides to where you had like a screen and it was more motion on a lot of the rides, where the whole family, like most of the rides were great for a family of 4. One of my favorite rides was the E.T. ride. Oh my God, I loved it. I so loved it. They were like made like bikes. That was phenomenal. I really love that because I love E.T. as growing up as a kid, and I finally got a chance to ride that ride, so that was phenomenal. My youngest daughter, she loved the Bart Simpson ride. That was a lot of fun for her, and it was hilarious. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but Maggie and that pacifier, that's all I have to say on that. That was a trip. But there was so many things to do. Like, I know it's based on a lot of the movies and shows that we watched growing up as a kid, and also now that we experience, like with the Transformers, and then you have some of the other rides like Spider-Man, and then you also had Fast and the Furious, which, you know, the new one just came out, so we was able to experience that. I got a lot of video footage, and I may not be able to add all that to this video here, but I would love to share that with you guys if I'm able to, because I took a lot of clips and different things and parts of our family vacay to share with you all. But also on a lot of the rides, of course, you're not able to film and have your phone, because you can lose it because the motions of the ride, and they'll tell you to go ahead and put it away so you don't lose it, of course, and that makes sense. So I didn't want to risk losing or damaging my phone. So I did take video footage up until the time it was actually time to get onto the ride, and then I will put it away. Be prepared to get wet, because some of the rides you are going to get wet. Even if it don't say you're going to get wet, just be prepared. So to be honest with you, don't go with your hair all fancy, still look proper and nice, but you want to make sure your hair is up and pulled back away from your face. You are going to get wet, so I'm just letting you know. So I wouldn't recommend wearing your best of your best. You want to go in comfortable wear again, but make sure it's decent. But at the same time, don't wear your Sunday best, because if you do, you're going to be upset. I'm just keeping it real. I mean, that's pretty much what I do. So I just want you guys to know, and I want to give you that tip, because I would have to say maybe about 8 rides, it didn't mention nothing about getting wet on them, and I promise you it was either a squirt here or a sprints there, but you got wet. So
and one of the rides too that we had great hopes and expectations for but it didn't meet our, what we thought it was going to be, and that's the Kong ride.
Oh God.
Right, there was I don't want to spoil the ride for you, but it was at the end, there was a glitch. I'll just leave it at that, but I mean, maybe if it had gone without the glitch, maybe we would have enjoyed it a little bit more, but I mean, that wasn't my favorite ride. What would you say your favorite ride was there at Universal?
I liked a lot of them. Honestly, I'm gonna have to say it was one of the Harry Potter rides.
Yeah.
It was one of those, and I wish I knew the name of it. It was one of the Harry Potter rides. It was one that I actually rode with my daughter, Aaliyah. It was one of the ones that actually felt like you was zip lining, and it was amazing. So that's one of the rides that So the child swap, one of the things that I loved about that was the fact that, say for example, there was a roller coaster ride and your child might not have been met the requirements on how to be able to get on that ride, versus it was age or height or size of whatever you have there. One of the things I love about the child swap was the fact that the parents were able to swap out, and one would stay with the child while the parent would ride, and then the parent would come back and you would have a chance to ride if you wanted to ride that. That way you didn't have to wait back in line all over again. And there was an area in the VIP room that they had designated for every ride where the parent would be able to do that and wait until they got off. So the same area where that room was in a glass soundproof room area, they had it where the ride would let the other people off, and then you would meet up with your party. At that point you would go to a little area where they would let you back on, so you didn't have to wait in a long line again. So that was one of the features that I really liked that the park definitely had. They also had something else that was really nice, which was lockers. So let's say that you was getting on another ride where you didn't have anything to hold your cell phone, or they recommended no bags. One of the cool things about that was the fact that they had the lockers, and how you had to get to the lockers, you had to scan your fast pass or your entry card in order to open up the locker. It would designate a special locker for you, and you would have to, in order to open it, you have to have that same key or that same pass, which was your entry into the park, and before you can get on the ride. It would not let you ride some of the rides unless you had put your belongings in there. That way you wouldn't lose them and different things like that, or cause harm to someone else by not following directions, and that malfunctions the ride. So that was one of the key things that I really liked and admire about Universal Studios.
Yeah, and the thing is about those lockers, the rides that made you use the locker, there wasn't a fee for it, so you didn't have to pay for it. But depending on the ride that requires you to do it on, there's a reason for it. Because one of them was, my oldest daughter and I got on, I think it was called the Rip It Ride, or it was a roller coaster, but it was a red roller coaster. And to get on it, there's a vertical, you go vertically, and then you come straight down, like literally straight down. It's got loops. She wasn't getting on it, so she and my youngest daughter said no on that. So my oldest daughter and I got on it, loved every second of it. But yeah, if we didn't have the locker, I definitely would have lost something. Because I had on my cargo shorts, and cargo shorts are great, but there's Velcro on the side. But as fast as it goes, and with the loops or whatever, there's a possibility you may still lose something. So the lockers are great. That way you don't lose anything. But another thing that's great about it too, or that you have to pay for it. But anyway, I would say that the Park Hopper Pass is something that is needed, because we liked it. Universal Studios was great, but Universal Studios is one park, and another park is Islands of Adventure, which I really found out that the hard way, because there is a train that is in the Harry Potter area where you take a train from Universal Studios to Islands of Adventure, but you have to have the Park Hopper Pass in order to do that. And if you don't have that pass, and there's a customer service area right here where they say you can upgrade your pass, so you can do it same day. I think it makes sense though to kind of plan it ahead, but you want to kind of know there are two parks. Yeah. Both of them are great. All right, the Universal Studios portion itself. Both of them have, I was about to say, the Universal Studios Park is more for the kids, but then I wouldn't say that, because they both have rides that are for everybody. Because Island of Adventure does have an area where, what theme was it for the kids? Dr. Seuss. Yeah, Dr. Seuss at the Islands of Adventure has some good rides. So if she didn't want to get on the Hulk, and stuff like that, which she didn't. So my older daughter and I did that, and then so she was able to go into the Dr. Seuss area for the little ones. That way they were still able to do their thing. And by far, the greatest roller coaster at Universal Studios or Islands of Adventure and I would say anywhere is the Jurassic Park Velocicoaster. If you have a chance, YouTube the video of the Velocicoaster. It is awesome as it looks. I loved it. She didn't get on it, but my oldest daughter and I loved every second of it. If I go back, I'm doing it again. Now, the thing about the Fast Pass, it does not work on that coaster, and the line is pretty much going to be what it is. So, again, even if you have the Fast Pass, it's not going to work on that one. So I would highly recommend, when you have the app on your phone, if you see it's less than an hour, get on that right then and there, because when you're in the line, you're good. But later on in the day, as the day goes on, it's going to get longer and longer. Sometimes it was up to almost 2 hours to get on the ride, because it is that hot of a ride. Everybody loves it, and when you get on it, it is great. If you don't like speed, don't do it. If you don't like drops, don't do it.
If you don't like corkscrews, don't do it.
If you're one of those people that gets on the ride and then all of a sudden you're freaking out and they've got YouTube videos of people, oh my God, ah, ah. If you hyperventilate on the rides, don't do it. But it's a great ride to get on. I highly loved it.
Now, it was the drop for me. That's why I didn't do it. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. The more I stood there and kept watching this ride, like, the ride kind of forced you to do like this. So, I'm going to be honest with you. At one moment, I was, like, trying to psych myself out and say, okay, I'm going to get on this ride. And another man was like, I'm not doing it. So, it looked like it was a lot of fun. My daughter, who is 12, she enjoyed it, which is Jasmine. She had a ball with her dad. They really had so much fun. But during that time, that's when Aaliyah and I had a chance to get on that Harry Potter ride that I told you guys that I had so much fun on. It was awesome. Had that moment. So a few of the times we rode together as a family on some of the rides, and then a few of the times we would split up and go do us based on the fact, the time for one, and then two, if there was something that we really want to do because of the long waits that was in line. And it really worked for us. And again, they're at a good age to where they understand what's going on. And then if it was something they didn't really want to do or something they really want to do, we try to accommodate that as well, because again, you're only there for that day. You really want to enjoy it to the best of your advantage. And again, you want to cherish those memories and make the best of it. So we had so much fun. But one of the places that I really, really adored was this place right here, and this was also in the City Walk as well, and I'm taking you guys back there. It was the Chocolate Emporium. This is one of the things that I got from the Chocolate Emporium, and this was one of their candy jars. I just love the look of the candy jar. They came in different colors, and some might also be in chocolate as well. Now, I got this because I always like to buy a keepsake when I go anywhere out of town. I always bring back something from somewhere. So this is one of the items that I definitely want to get, along with those delicious donuts that did not make it back to Georgia. But I'm going to definitely be sharing this with the family. But the jar was just giving me vibes, so I love it. One of the things about that place, which was a Chocolate Emporium, the wait, if you want to have dinner there, let's say you waited till that night, during the daytime it was pretty easy going. We could have sat down and probably had a bite to eat, but we was more focused on getting on those rides, because again, the park do close at a certain time. Now, this restaurant didn't shut down to close to, I believe it was either 11 or midnight, but just understand, the line was really long, and the reservations to eat at this restaurant was booked until that following next Tuesday. That was a week away, guys. So if you are planning to go, because that's one of the things that we definitely have on our list to do next time we go back, they have these, oh my goodness, the delicious, mouth dripping, dropping milkshakes. Yes, you heard me. I cannot wait to show you guys the clip of the video that I took inside the Chocolate Emporium. I mean, it is absolutely breathtaking. I cannot wait to try one of those milkshakes next time we go back. So I cannot wait to see you guys' comments on the bottom of what you guys have to say. And I know you want to add some more to this video. Yeah,
well, the shakes, they looked phenomenal. People were waiting in line for them. And they're $15 for the shakes. But, I mean, to me, even though it seems like a lot for a shake, the lines and everybody that said they had them said it was worth it. So we definitely plan on going back for sure and make sure we get some shakes on there. And also the same place where she got the candy she just showed you, they have macaroons there, which those were delicious.
Yes.
And they've got different chocolates, fudges, stuff like that.
We did get some macaroons.
A lot of different sweet stuff. So going back to, we talked about the voodoo donuts. You know, we're trying to do low carb. But when you're on vacation, here's the deal, man. What happens on vacation stays on vacation. We had a dozen donuts. There's 4 of us. If we do the math, that's 12 divided by 4 is 3. That's not part of the low carb diet, but it was what it was, and we enjoyed it. It is what it is. God knows our heart. We're good. So, anyway.
But we had a wonderful trip. I cannot wait to see you guys' comments or any questions you may have. I hope we answered a lot of your questions and gave you some helpful tips while you are planning your upcoming summer vacay with your fam. And this is Tanya and Damon. I'm so happy you guys have chosen to join me here in Memory Lane Keepsakes. Don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, and check out my Instagram page, which is Memory Lane Keepsakes 2017.
See you
Have
later.
a blessed day. Bye-bye.